My presentation is on party and class. The subtitle is The Relation of the Revolutionary Socialist Party and the Working Class Struggle. A lot of what's in this presentation is, like paraphrases and kind of quotes from Chris Harman's essay of the same name, from a book of the same name, which contains that and other essays. At the end, I'll reference some of that, but let me just dive right in. The need for a party. Rosa Luxemburg said of the party, it must lead the proletarians from their present atomized condition, which prolongs the autocratic regime, to a class organization that would help them to become aware of their historical objectives and prepare them to struggle to achieve those objectives. It must be the political leadership of the whole movement. It's a nice little quote here. They, the party that is, are the most enlightened, most class-conscious vanguard of the proletariat. They cannot and dare not wait in fatalistic fashion with folded arms for the advent of the revolutionary situation. The social democratic view of the relation of party and class. So the social democratic view, or that of the SPD in Germany at the, this was in the early 1900s, was the dominant view of socialism for 40 years prior to World War I. They believed that the party played a central role in development towards socialism. Continuous and smooth growth of working class organization and consciousness under capitalism, to be clear there, is what they believed. The development of mass working class party is seen as inevitable coming from capitalist development. So that within capitalism, that this is something that would just naturally happen. Parliament, and this is a quote from Kautsky, leading SPD member. Parliament is the most powerful lever that can be used to raise the proletariat out of its economic, social, and moral degradation. So definitely a lot of emphasis on working within the system, electoralism, such. They believe that the party represents the class. We'll talk about it a little bit later why this is problematic. Outside of the party, the workers have no consciousness. Social Democrats held a fear of what workers would do without the party. They also feared the associated dangers of a premature revolution. Kautsky viewed that the party was the direct forerunner of the workers. So we'll get into that in a bit. The dangers of a bureaucratic party. The German SPD was a victim of party conservatism, which became dominant. Trotsky warned of the party's central committee substituting itself for the party itself, and a dictator substituting themselves for the central committee. The collapse of the working class in the Soviet system following the Russian Revolution was due to a lot of things, but isolation and Russia's uneven development. I've made a promise here that I'm going to do another kickoff on the Russian Revolution and how it failed, which there's another really good Chris Harman article on that I pulled from that I'm stealing from the Seattle Revolutionary Socialist Movement. The rise of Stalinism brought bureaucracy, which distorted the revolutionary ideology and justified its own interests and crimes. I found this what appears to be an ironic quote from Stalin. It says that the communist bureaucrat is the most dangerous type of bureaucrat. Why? Because he masks his bureaucracy with the title of party member. So, interesting little quote from the master bureaucrat himself. Spontaneity. Lenin and Antonio Gramsci stressed the possibilities of sudden transformations of working class consciousness. These masses are making heroic efforts to rise to the occasion and cope with the gigantic tasks of world significance imposed upon them by history. Nothing will ever compare in importance to this direct training that the masses receive in the course of revolutionary struggle itself. I like this line right here. Months of revolution educate citizens more quickly and fully than decades of political stagnation. The working class is instinctively, spontaneously social democratic. Lenin wrote, following the outbreak of war in 1914, the objective war-created situation is inevitably engendering revolutionary sentiments. It is tempering and enlightening all the finest and most class-conscious proletarians. A sudden change in the mood of the masses is not only possible, but is becoming more and more probable. Lenin has also said that the masses are to the left of the party. The role of theory. Lenin stressed the role of theory in the party as the bearer of this. He said, without revolutionary theory, there can be no revolutionary practice. He says that it is not that the working class is incapable of coming to theoretic socialist consciousness, but that the level of consciousness in the working class is never uniform or can be uneven. The working class is indoctrinated in accepting the bourgeois ideology of existing society, which is perpetuated by all media. The party is constantly trying to make its newest members rise to the level of understanding of its oldest. It has to be able to react to the spontaneous developments of the class. Another quote here, to be a party of the masses, not only in name, we must get ever wider masses to share in all party affairs, steadily to elevate them from political indifference to protest and struggle, from a general spirit of protest to an adoption of social democratic views, from an adoption to these views to support the movement, from support to organized membership in the party. Also, to be clear, I wanted to make this point off on the side. It can be confusing that in an earlier slide, I discussed conservative views such as those of the SPD as social democratic, while Luxemburg and Lenin also used the term social democratic in place of revolutionary socialist. In Luxemburg and Lenin's day, they used those terms interchangeably at times. Nowadays, we make a distinction between social democracy and revolutionary socialism. Social democracy as a term nowadays is in regards to the SPD approach, which implies reformism and electoralism, working within the capitalist system type of approach. Revolutionary socialists are opposed to working within the system, believe instead of in overthrowing it. So I wanted to make that clear. That can be confusing. Something that came up in our Rosa Luxemburg reading group as well is the use of the term social democracy. Discipline within the party. A party must limit its membership to those who are willing to seriously and scientifically appraise their own activity and that of the party generally. In normal times, numbers could be small. In periods of struggle, they will grow immeasurably. The party will need to limit to those willing to accept its discipline. So this is of the discipline, not a blind acceptance of authoritarianism. The party exists to make it possible for the most conscious and militant workers and intellectuals to engage in scientific discussion as a prelude to concerted and cohesive action. There's an emphasis here on theoretical clarity and debate. So again, what discipline means in this context means acceptance of the need to relate individual experience to the total theory and practice of the party. What matters is political clarity to ensure that all members are brought into debate and understand the relevance of their own activity. On the side here, such as with the Denver Communists, education within a revolutionary organization is paramount. We cannot blindly accept the ideas of the org, but must come to our own understanding by relating our personal experience to revolutionary socialists. More on discipline. We can't confuse the party with the class. The class as a whole is constantly engaged in unconscious opposition to capitalism. The party is a section of that that is already conscious and unites to try to give conscious direction to the struggle of the rest. Its discipline is not something imposed from the top downwards, but rather something that is voluntarily accepted by all those who participate and act to implement it. In the past, when members were only half politicized, it led to a toning down of political debate a lack of political seriousness, which reduced the ability of members to make independent political evaluations. Without an organizational centralization aimed at giving clarity and decisiveness to political differences, the independence of the rank and file members was bound to be permanently undermined. Personal loyalties to established leaders causes political incoherence and delusion. Lack of political cohesion and understanding leads to authoritarian pseudo-socialist leaders that co-opt movements, such as in the case of Stalin, Mao, Castro. The relation of the party to the state. The function of the party is not to be the state, but rather to carry out continual agitation and propaganda against the more backwards elements of the class, so as to raise their self-consciousness and self-reliance to the pitch that they will both set up workers' councils and fight to overthrow the forms of organization of the bourgeois state. The Soviet state is the highest concrete embodiment of the self-activity of the whole working class. The party is that section of the class that is most conscious of the world historical implications of this self-activity. The functions of the worker state and of the party should be quite different. This is why there can be more than one party in a worker state. We must represent all the diverse interests of all the sections of workers based on geography, type of work, and so on. The party is built around the things that unite the class nationally and internationally by ideological persuasion to overcome the heterogeneity of the class. It must persuade and not coerce the class into accepting its lead. An organization that is concerned with participating in the revolutionary overthrow of capitalism by the working class cannot conceive of substituting itself for the organs of direct rule of that class. More on this. Revolutionary organizations will have a different structure than that of the workers' state that will arise in the process of overthrowing capitalism. The Revolutionary Party will have to struggle within the institution of the workers' state for its principles as against those with opposed ones. This is only possible because it itself is not the workers' state. Lenin's idea of the relation of the party to the class and to the state is very different than Stalin's idea. The party becomes the state, which claims to represent the class, which is substitutionalism, as I mentioned earlier. The need is to still build an organization of the revolutionary Marxists that will subject their situation and that of the class as a whole to scientific scrutiny, to ruthlessly criticize their own mistakes, and will, while engaging in the everyday struggles of the mass of workers, attempt to increase their independent self-activity by unremittingly opposing their ideological and practical subservience to the old society. It's important for there to be a separation of the party and the worker state for there to be democracy. Because the working class is the majority of the population, democracy needs to exist to push for working class interests. Substitutionalism. Marx, Engels, and Trotsky and others warned about the idea of the party substituting or acting as a proxy for the working class, regardless of what the workers thought or wanted. Substitutionalism can lead to situations, as mentioned before, where the party substitute for the working class and where a dictator could substitute for the party. Historically, this has led to pseudo-socialist states that become distorted from the original idea of socialism. Stalinism, Maoism, Cuba, North Korea, Venezuela, which are not democratic. While they succeeded in overthrowing monarchies, previous autocrats, and colonial powers, they were parties that became the state and substituted for working class power. Only a system of workers' councils, also referred to as the Soviet system, can lead to a true democratic workers' state, which Marx, Engels, and Lenin called the dictatorship of the proletariat. The relation of the Revolutionary Party to the class. It is important for the Revolutionary Party to be a disciplined and organized section of the class that works to raise revolutionary consciousness to the working class. The class is unorganized and uneven in its development. The class carries with it reactionary ideas that are promoted by the ruling class. Without a party to help organize and educate the class can fall victim to reactionary, populist, and libertarian views, which can lead to undemocratic and ineffective movements. The party must learn from the class. The party has to learn from the struggles of the working class in order to help transform it. Tony Cliff said that the Revolutionary Party that seeks to overthrow capitalism cannot accept the notion of a discussion on policies inside the party without the participation of the mass of workers. Policies which are then brought unanimously ready-made to the class. Since the Revolutionary Party cannot have interests apart from the class, all the party's issues of policy are those of the class, and they should therefore be thrashed out in the open in its presence. All discussions on basic issues of policy should be discussed in the light of day in the open press. Let the masses of workers take part in the discussion, put pressure on the party, its apparatus, and leadership. Marx and Engels said in the Communist Manifesto, the communists do not form a separate party opposed to other working class parties. They have no interests separate and apart from the proletariat as a whole. On the side here, I put anarchists and Blanquists have a tendency towards leadership by an elite vanguard with closed door meetings and secrecy. Open and transparent discussion and debate is paramount for democracy to take place. We as revolutionary socialists need to advocate for public discussions that include everyone from the working class. All right, almost done here. Implications for the Denver Communists and other revolutionary organizations. Revolutionary organizations need to be a part of the working class struggle by intervening in strikes, unionizing efforts, connecting with struggles of oppressed peoples, and other issues that affect the working class. We need to continue to be disciplined by studying revolutionary socialist theory and engaging in an open discussion and debate to further our own understanding. What this looks like, reading theory, listening to each other, discussing and debating in meetings, attending actions, participating in reading groups, doing presentations on various topics, finding new opportunities for engagement and connecting struggles, talking about issues in our working places, taking initiative, supporting each other as comrades, asking questions, overcoming self-doubt and personal struggles, and speaking up. This is the only way that we can be an effective and democratic organization that can help create change in an oppressive capitalist system. We need to continue to promote propaganda, such as social media, graphics, signs, flyers, books, and engage in discussions with other workers to create revolutionary consciousness among the working class. Through participation in struggles, we need to connect with and learn from the working class in order to push its demands and create stronger revolutionary organization, self-reliance, and self-confidence. All the ideas and skills outlined above are not just necessary for overthrowing capitalism, but are necessary for leading and engaging in a future workers' government, as well as maintaining, preserving, and defending. That's all I have. So here's my sources. So I mainly highlighted Party and Class, the essay by Chris Harman, pulled a little bit from that Duncan Hallis and Tony Cliff, those two essays. That's the book that I got a lot of this from, and that's all I got.